Welcome back to the Stretch the Floor podcast. I'm Matthew, and I'm here as always with Venushan here to talk some more basketball. And both of us are in a pretty good mood right now because just hours before we started recording, a couple hours, we got some pretty unexpected news that Pascal Siakam, who we thought was coming back, like mid-November? I guess it's already November, but mid-November, like maybe late November, is coming back tomorrow. And it just so happens both of us are going to the game against the Brooklyn Nets, 3 o'clock in Toronto. So we're both super hyped. And the Raptors coming off of just a heartbreaking, disgusting loss that makes you just have a sick feeling in your stomach. Last night are going to be back at it tomorrow with Pascal Siakam in the lineup, and we're going to be there. So, how hyped are you right now?
Man, it's going to be great to see his return. The love he's going to get from the city and how that's going to impact him and all that. And also, we're seeing Kevin Durant return to Toronto since his Achilles injury. So it's going to be an interesting game. It's definitely going to be filled with emotions, and we're going to see probably who everyone has as the best player in the world right now in Kevin Durant go against probably the best rookie everyone has right now and his new team. So it's going to be a good moment, and it's always good to see, these young guys go against these like all-time greats in Kevin Durant and James Harden.
Yeah. And by the time people hear this, that game will probably already have happened. But with Siakam coming back, I guess we're going to have to see what the lineup looks like in that game. Do you think Barnes slides to the bench? Do you think Barnes slides to the 5 or OG goes to the 5, or just there's no positions and they just play Fred, Gary, and then the 3, 6, 8 guys?
I think Gary goes to the bench.
Really?
I think they're going to go Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby, Scotty Barnes, Pascal Siakam, Precious, and they're going to run a bench unit of Banton, Gary Trent Jr., Civ, and then probably Boucher, who gets very low minutes, and then Birch.
That's really interesting because I know you're not as big a fan of Gary Trent Jr. as some other people, but I don't think you can deny how good or how improved his defense has been so far this season. Like you brought up the point, he plays hero ball, not just offensively, but he plays hero ball defensively too, because he goes for a lot of blocks and steals that sometimes don't pan out. But lately, it has been panning out for him, and he's averaging 3.1 steals a game. I think he's in the top 100 of he's top 15 in fantasy right now. I think just because of those steals. So
he won us a game through defense.
Exactly. He has been. Now he's taking a lot of questionable shots early in the shot clock and stuff like that. He's shooting under 40% from the field, but I do like his presence in that starting lineup and the energy he brings, especially defensively. I don't know how I feel about him going to the bench, to be honest. But then I don't like just not playing a center either.
Yeah, like you can see Precious / Birch's impact already when they're just like they can hit that little like 5 foot
little push shot. Yeah,
that little push shot. They can just box out the guy. Not even like they're putting up crazy rebound numbers. It's just box out the guy and help reduce the offensive rebounds. And even on the offensive side, we've seen how impactful having 3 to 4, 6, 8 guys on the floor at once.
Yeah.
We're getting so many offensive rebounds, which literally won the game against the Celtics back in the beginning of the season. That's the only reason we won. Like we were literally Al Horford had like 10 blocks, but we were getting every single offensive rebound, so we won, right? And we were shooting horribly, but it didn't matter. So I think keeping that size and length is just like mandatory. Like that's like kind of the Raptors' identity right now. And I don't really think Gary Trent going to the bench is going to really impact him as much as like people say, because yes, he does play horribly off the bench. I know that, but he's not going to be on the bench by himself anymore. You know what I mean? Like Scotty Barnes or Fred VanVleet will be on there with him, so it'll be more talent there with him rather than just him go create, right?
Yeah, you're right. The length is what this team hangs their hat on, and even if he does move to the bench, like Khem Birch is the backup center, but when there's an important moment in the game, he's right. He's the best. He's the best big. He's the best center, and he's the one who closes the game. So like being on the bench doesn't really mean too much. And Nick Nurse will change, like depending on how the game's going. If Gary's hot, he will play him. So maybe it doesn't matter too much. But it's not like he's going to become less efficient offensively because he hasn't been too efficient to begin with. He's shooting 39.7% from the field. So we'll see. But he's been someone that I don't think enough people have been talking about defensively because he has been just playing harder than anyone I've ever seen defensively, really.
Yeah, and I think it's still gonna be there. I really don't think. I think he like they talked to him. You know what I mean? Like they're gonna like explain it to him, and he always has been like an understanding player. He does what's best for the team. Having those years under experience with Dame and CJ. Learning what sacrifice is. I know those teams. A lot of like fans get on them for not having success and stuff, but that's more due to talent rather than like due to their personality. They're not like it's not like we're saying like, oh man, if CJ sacrifices more, they're gonna win a championship. No, they just don't have the talent to win a championship, right? But they're like consummate professionals and they always do the right thing. And he's one of those guys too. He knows what's best for the team. He knows the like team's future and he knows eventually he is gonna be the starting shooting guard.
Yeah.
Like for the future. He just got, wait some things here and there and everything will clear itself out and he will be the starting shooting guard.
Yeah, that's a good point. It seems like the level of buy-in on this team from 1 to
Everyone.
15 is
Yeah.
just like super, super high. Like we hear Banton quotes from him saying like, I'm not gonna like take my spot on this roster for granted. Like I'm still acting like I don't even deserve a spot. Like I'm just gonna
Yeah.
keep playing hard no matter what. Uh, the one thing like the Raptors have been exceeding expectations, I think, for both of us to this point. But the half court offense has been, as we expected, a little sluggish, a little hard to watch at times. That is going to be helped with Siakam coming back. Another
Yeah.
guy who can attract a double team down low. Another guy who can hopefully hit an outside shot, at least a corner three.
Yeah.
And just a guy who's going to he's going to be able to get us some easy buckets in the half court, which have been pretty hard to come by at times for this team. So if the defensive energy can remain the same, and if we get, I don't know, like a little bit 10% more efficient, 5% more efficient from the field in the half court, like this is a pretty
already
good
8
team.
seed.
It's a
Yeah.
pretty good team.
Maybe we
Right?
could push up and avoid that play-in, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, what I was saying is like with now Pascal Siakam has two other 20-point scorers that he can rely on. And he also has another 15 to 16, 18-point scorer in Barnes that he can rely on too. So he has so much pressure removed off him because these guys are just stepping up and becoming better. And he has another center alongside him now. So hey, let's say that the center comes in, he could drop that little pass in and they could get that push shot in. So he knows that instead of like drop it in and Barnes, like Baines just missed it, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, like it's gonna be a
Yeah.
lot better. And another thing is he's not, he doesn't have that shoulder thing bothering him. So his body's gonna feel better. He didn't lose 15 pounds randomly, not randomly due to COVID
Mm-hmm.
midway through the season. So his conditioning is going to be better. His body's going to be better. He's going to have energy. He has less pressure and he has teammates who actually rely on. Like this is going to be his best year. Like it's
Yeah.
just going to be simple as that.
And this is something you've brought up in the past. And honestly, like it's a real thing because they're showing highlights from last season. I'm like, there's literally no one in the stadium. Like there's just tarps
No,
over all the seats. Like
yeah,
how could you, especially a guy like him who feeds off the crowd, like you've always said, like how
yeah,
where are you getting your motivation from? Like it's gonna be a night and day difference between just like his body language and everything, like with all the fans in the stadium back at Scotiabank for the first time since March of 2020, which is insane.
yeah,
Um, we didn't record last week, so we didn't get a chance to talk about this, but OG Anunoby started out rough. So when the last
yep,
time we talked, it was 2 or 3 games in, he was starting out a little rough.
yeah.
That's changed. He's been
20-point
exactly what
scorer.
we hoped he would be, 20-point
Yeah,
scorer, getting the ball, attracting double teams, making good passes, maintaining that defense. And he's been him and Fred VanVleet for the best player on the team. And it kind of varies
and
night to day, but
Barnes.
and Barnes, it's
Yeah,
insane to say, but he's been ever since those first 3 games, it's been consistent 20, 25, 37. Was it that one game or 36?
36
Just
against the New York
career
Knicks.
high.
Yeah, and it's like a team. We're becoming like a team. A team I compared us with before. Uh, in the off season was the Hornets, and we're just like them right now because Charlotte has Lamelo. That's their young guy, who gets everyone excited and gets everyone going. We Scotty Barnes. They have a veteran who could do a little bit of everything. In Gordon Hayward, we have OG Anunoby, and then they have Terry Rozier, someone who isn't inefficient, but is a team leader, gets the guys going. That's our Fred VanVleet. And then they have I said what's going to take us over them is Pascal Siakam, but they
Mhm.
just had Miles Bridges step up
Bridges.
into kind of even a Pascal Siakam type role. He's now becoming, I don't think he's going to stay at this 25 points, but I'll be surprised if he scores under 20 points this
Yeah.
season now. So, he's definitely stepped up into that role. And then we both lack, a true, dominant big center. We kind of have center by committee. They have PJ Washington and Mason Plumlee. We have Bertrand and Achua. I think ours is a little bit better, but you know what I mean? We're just like them. And they're always talked about being how this like fun, exciting team who made the play in and are going to improve and get better. And that's just the exact same position we are. We're kind of like the parallel from Canada. Like that's just who we are.
Yeah, that's a really good comparison, and it's just crazy. Like when you get a team full of guys who are hungry, like in the regular season, and
Yeah.
just like take every game super importantly and just play hard every single game. Like you'd be surprised how many games you can win in the regular season. That's what the Hornets and Raptors and Heat have been doing. Maybe Heat a little surprisingly because we didn't think they'd be playing this hard, riding their veterans this
Yeah.
hard early on. A team that isn't doing that right now, at least is the Atlanta Hawks. Trae Young just had a quote the other day saying the regular season is boring coming off the playoff run. We need to find a way to get to that playoff level of intensity and energy because we're just not playing with that right now. And they're a more talented team than the Raptors. They're a more talented
Yeah.
team than the Hornets, but they're not playing like it right now.
Yeah. Yeah. The only guy who's playing like that right now is the guy who missed out on that playoff run, and that's Cam Reddish. You just see him, playing out 100%, taking all those shots, a little bit of a chucker, but he's making up for it and earning the right to chuck because he's playing amazing defense. Arguably the best defender on the bench in the league. I think most people would agree with that. Just because,
Off the top of my head, yeah, I can't really think of anyone else,
yeah,
but
just because
yeah,
most people probably want him to start. He probably starts for like 16 other teams in the league, but he's the best defender off the bench. He's scored very good to start the season. He had a couple bad games to like right now before we record this, but he could still bring that back. And other than him, everyone's just lackadaisical. They're just walking, they're just running sets at a much slower pace. They're not switching, they're not hedging as hard as they can. The only two guys, who are doing that is the guys who missed the run. Like Herder got his bag and he's kind of just being complacent. Clint Capella always sets off, I feel, every season with that same Achilles soreness.
mm,
So you could see him kind of hesitating here and there. Trae Young, he's adjusting to the game like every other point guard is with this new foul rules. And John Collins, I don't know what he's doing. He's kind of like some plays he's amazing on defense, some plays he's not. Like if he's consistently amazing on defense, like the playoffs, he could be an all-star level guy. He just needs to get it through his head. And these guys will, right? They just need like a 3-game losing streak. That's what they need.
yeah.
That's what fans should be like wanting. They want like go on a little skid and then get these guys waking up and go, they're just too good, too talented to miss the drastic team.
Yeah, what they need is to wake up one day, late November, early December. We are the 10th seed right now.
Yeah,
Like we need to get our act together and avoid that play-in
like a
because
little team meeting.
that's one thing that the play-in, like say what you want about it.
It's one
It's
game.
going to make teams like the Hawks try to avoid that, like get into that top six
Yeah,
at all costs, right? So that's yeah, I'm not worried about them because we know we've seen them play. Like if you can do it in the playoffs, you can do it whenever. But
yeah,
we've seen teams like, for example, the Clippers from 2 years ago were kind of like this, where they had all the talent in the world, but they never kind of really got that chemistry and got that level of intensity in the regular season, and then they lost to the Nuggets right in the playoffs. So it could be another situation like that, but I think this team will find the hunger and the drive for sure.
yeah. They're
Uh,
too talented not to.
yeah, exactly.
And Karl-Anthony Towns, who was the player we always said might get linked there, might get traded there, has liked a tweet that is a response that says hashtag free cat. I know that's very tinfoil has like that tweet.
Oh my God! So the cat trade machine
It's
season
going
is
crazy.
is is starting up.
Starting,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Another team that is taking the regular season very seriously and is doing very well is the Chicago Bulls, and we've been high on the Bulls some people weren't high on the DeMar DeRozan offseason move, but
We always said it was great.
we have been since day one liking it. And obviously the Lonzo move, and who doesn't want Alex Caruso on their team? It's worked out exactly like we thought it would. DeMar's been scoring a lot more than I thought he would, and playmaking a lot less than I thought he would.
Yeah.
But it's been awesome to see. Unfortunately, since we last talked, Patrick Williams has been ruled out, at least for the rest of the regular season. Not sure about playoffs, which sucks. He was kind of a nice glue guy in their team. Maybe not too important offensively. They have enough talent there, but defensively was one of their
amazing.
One of their better defenders, and a young guy who we were expecting a lot from this year. But before we get into potential replacements or ways they can work around that, what have your thoughts been on the Bulls so far? Like, is this we're gonna keep seeing this from DeMar DeRozan, the closer, the number one option, the 28 to 30 point scorer every night, or is what's gonna happen there?
He's just doing this because he has to, right? Because Zach LaVine still has that wrist issue, and Vucevic is still learning how to play as the third option because he's been the first option for a decent amount of time now. Like, he's been the first option since the Dwight Howard trade to Los Angeles. Like, that's like 6-7 years. Like, he has been that guy. So it's been a while. It's been an adjustment period for him. And then we have Zach LaVine dealing with an injury. So they just said, hey, DeMar, you have been the guy that's, you've done this before. You played in red in the East and you scored 25 points before. Just do it again. Yeah. Keep us afloat. And Zach LaVine's still playing great. I'm not saying he's playing bad, right? But he has a teammate that he can rely on. Like, that's just something that he should do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but when Zach LaVine's wrist gets fully healthy, I can see him, I can see them doing like hot hand for hot hand, like whoever has it go. Whereas right now it's just like DeMar go, you know what I mean? So I can see that happening. I can see the playmaking increase then because he's one of the best playmaking forwards in the league. So I can see that increasing. But Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso as like a backup point guard and starting point guard have been doing an amazing job playmaking anyways. So this Bulls team is just like, they're just clicking on everything. Like, everything that was imagined is just instantly clicking, and like no chemistry issues and everything's going well. And they're still adding Kobe White soon, who's just going to be a microwave scorer off the bench, finally just come in and shoot, and he's going to do good. And yeah, Derrick Jones just, he just came back from that little injury and he's playing better with more energy and with those crazy hops. So they're just kind of like a whole team. They're like a team. Even though they have 3 great players and a big 3, the rest of the team is still there and they still have substance. They're going to be a playoff team and a fun team to watch.
Yeah, it's like I'm watching the Bulls. I'm like, these guys are so deep. They have so many guys, and they just say, "Oh yeah, Kobe White. They still have him. They still have Derrick Jones Jr." Like that, it's crazy how much depth that they have. And maybe people who didn't watch DeMar as much as us on the Raptors, and even obviously we watched him on the Spurs just because we love him. Yeah. Maybe that's why they didn't expect this. They didn't know how good of a playmaker he was. How like if you give him spacing, he can be a go-to scorer. He can find a shot. He can get to the line. He's been getting to the line at will so far for them this year. So we saw that coming, and I'm glad we were on that since day one. And I think everyone is kind of seeing just how good he can be with shooters around him. Yeah,
DeMar DeRozan, he's just like, it hurts to say, but like Toronto wasn't like the biggest like spotlight for media. Obviously, we've grown a lot with the Drake years, with the championship and Kawhi made it times 100, times like a million, right? Like, we got so much more media attention. So back when DeMar DeRozan was here, the media wasn't there. And then he went to San Antonio. And one of the reasons why Kawhi left San Antonio was because he wasn't getting any media attention. So obviously DeMar went there and he wasn't getting media attention. He should have been an all-star last year over Mike Conley.
Yeah.
Like, I guarantee you, if he was playing for like Los Angeles Lakers and it was the exact same record and everything, it's not anything. So we know he's an all-star there.
Yeah.
But it just is what it is. That's the kind of negatives that small teams face. And this is why Chicago Bulls is one of the biggest markets, because everyone's acting like DeMar DeRozan is doing this for the first time, even though he's been doing this. Same with Kyle Lowry on a little tangent, but Kyle Lowry, people are saying like this is like the second coming of Steve Nash. He's gonna win like MIP. This guy's like just like Chris Paul. Kyle Lowry hasn't even been as good as like last year Kyle Lowry. Like that's how people don't even realize. Like, this is just who Kyle Lowry is, and this is just like those big market teams, Miami and Chicago, showing like what their network is and how big they are. Like, once you go to those teams, you get so much more eyes on you.
Yeah, yeah. You can understand why players want to go
Want
there,
to
but
go
also
there.
it can work both ways too. Because if DeMar goes there and he was, not
Bad.
doing what we thought he would do, then it can work the other way. Before we
Yeah.
get off the Bulls, you had an idea of how they could work around this Patrick Williams injury.
Yeah. So I heard King of the Fourth Quarter, Kenny, he mentioned it, and that's Kyle Anderson to the Bulls. It would be for Derek Jones Jr. The only thing is, do you think he goes for a first round pick? Because he isn't expiring on 9 million. So do you think someone throws a first round pick? Because the Bulls could throw 2 seconds, 3 seconds. But I don't know if they throw a first round pick because it has to be a 2027 first round pick, which is so far in the future that the Bulls probably don't want to throw. They don't want to throw Kobe White already because he's just like he's just so young and so early in his career. They don't want to already throw him. So their best package is Derek Jones Jr. and 2 to 3 second round picks. If that gets accepted, great. And we'll talk about his fit with the team, just amazing. Like imagine you add Kyle Anderson's size of 6'9", starting power forward with that playmaking and defense. Oh man, that's gonna be an amazing fit, and he's literally gonna elevate them to like they could be anyone besides the Nets. Like that's how much it's gonna elevate them.
Yeah, no, I agree that the Nets are the one, and then
Yeah,
2 to 8 is up to grabs in my opinion
like
in the Eastern Conference.
they could go with the Milwaukee Bucks
Yeah,
and the Miami Heat.
no, I agree. And as for the trade package itself, I wouldn't give up that 2027 first.
No, probably not.
That's too far. 5 years, 6 years in the future. That's just you
Just
can't
don't know.
possibly.
Yeah,
But I'm having trouble thinking of a team that will give up a first round pick for
yeah,
Kyle Anderson. So 2 seconds, I don't know. I think that's a pretty good at the deadline. If
yeah.
Memphis isn't in it, like I don't know, that's a pretty good deal in my
It's
opinion.
not even that if they're not in it because he's coming off the bench right now,
Yeah.
and Dylan Brooks is returning like tomorrow, so he's gonna get even less minutes,
Yeah.
and he's already gonna have such a limited role, right? Because Desmond Bain took a huge step, DeAndre Melton took
Yep.
a huge step,
Yep.
so those guys just reduced Kyle Anderson's steps. That you're not gonna re-sign this guy, like realistically, right? You're not
Mhm.
gonna re-sign this guy, so you're in an Evan Fournier situation where not like the Magic situation, but like because the Magic were going full rebuild, but you just had guys step up and replace him who are young. So you want to give those guys minute and still, go within the team because Dylan Brooks is going to start. Melton's going to come off the bench probably, and that's going to push Kyle Anderson's minutes from a 6 man to like a 7th man, 8 man now. So he gets less minutes. It's going to be fun to see, man. He is going to get traded. It's either the Timberwolves if they're still like in that play-in.
Yeah.
If they, hopefully if Cat doesn't request that trade, then they probably go for him. But we could see him getting traded. I just hope it happens to the Bulls.
Yeah. Him, Thaddeus Young, these guys are the prime trade candidates at the deadline that maybe no one's talking about too much. But yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting to see. There's a topic that no one is talking about that I think people that need to be talking about right now. It's kind of insane. I'm just gonna read the stat off for you right now. You actually sent me this right before the pod. So anyway, Nikola Jokic is currently leading the Nuggets in points per game, assists per game, rebounds per game, steals per game, blocks per game, 3 points made per game, 3 points percentage, field goals made, field goal percentage, free throws made, and free throw percentage. The only player in history to lead his team in all of those categories, given it's a small sample size, and leads the whole league in all of the advanced stats. Currently has a PER of 34.7, which would be the all-time record. So the reigning MVP, he was your pick to finish second in MVP voting, I believe, coming into the season. Just like there's no superlative like good enough to say about Nikola Jokic right now.
He's just that guy, man. Like he's just that good. Like no one can stop him. You can't stop him. You bring a double, to slow down the scoring. He's gonna get people wide open layups and wide open threes, and they're a good enough team where they can hit wide open layups and wide open threes. And then you don't bring a double, he's just gonna score on you. Like no matter who you are, if you're the best defender, if you're, the defensive player of the year and Rudy Gobert, it doesn't matter. Like he's just gonna score on you. So you have to bring a double and he's gonna make you pay. It's just simple as that. Like he's like a modern day Shaq. What I mean by that is like he's a Shaq that has evolved his game, that has evolved the playmaking, has evolved the 3-point shooting, has evolved everything, right? Shaq didn't need those things because back in the day, he could just go score because he couldn't do all these rules, zoning, all that stuff was all altered because of Shaq. And this guy is just that dominant in the new current day rules. He just evolved his game to the next level. And he's the most skilled big man to ever exist. It's just simple as that. That's his reward.
I don't think that's blasphemous to say at all. Yeah. I think I don't want to just say things I'm going to take back later, but honestly, that he has to be top 2 or 3, just all time skilled big man. He's one of the very best passers of all time. He might be the best passer of all time. I don't want to offend anyone by saying that, but it's insane. And no one's panicking about the Nuggets. They're only 4-4, but they haven't been playing as well as we thought they would. But Michael Porter Jr. isn't going to shoot 22% from 3 the whole year. He's a career 45 to 46% 3-point shooter. So that's going to come around. And the assists that are only like Jokic is only averaging 5.5 assists right now. And he's usually an 8, 9, 10 assist guy. Yeah. Right. So that tells me that's not on him. It's on the teammates such as aren't hitting shots, namely Michael Porter Jr. So that's going to come around and they're going to start winning some more games. But if that does happen, when that does happen, with those stats, Jokic has to be in the MVP conversation for the second straight year.
Yeah, it's just gonna be like, we don't mention it enough, but like him and Giannis, kind of like Giannis, AD, and Jokic, those two are just always gonna be an MVP. Like, if barring injury, those guys are just gonna be there because they're gonna have wins. They're good enough to get their team a top 4 seed individually, but their front office does build solid teams around them, and they're going to put up the crazy stats that are going to be there. It's just narrative and what the media says. Like, this is a great team. He's so young. His running mates, Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. is still young. The Nuggets are going to win a lot. We're going to be talking about him a lot. And Jokic, he just has that potential, man. Like, I already would say he's the greatest second round pick of all time. Like, he's there. Like, he has MVP. Like,
how many second round picks won an MVP? That's something to look up. Yeah. Is he the first?
I think he's the first. So
he might be the first.
He has an MVP already. Like, he's gonna be in contention for another one. It's just it, man. It's just time to make. Nikola Jokic is the best skilled big man ever, and he's the best second round pick ever.
Yeah,
crazy to say, but it's
crazy.
Just...
And he is only 27. Is he even 27 yet? I don't even know. It's insane, man. It's completely insane. A couple things to touch on, I guess, just kind of around the league. LeBron James is injured again, second different injury this year. Is this a cause for concern? Is this just him and the Lakers being ultra careful, or are these kind of old man durability things starting to catch up to him in year 19?
Father time is undefeated. There's one person in basketball that's undefeated, that beat every single great, and that's age. Like, you can't be doing this at this age. I think he will have 1 or 2 more solid seasons where he's still scoring 27 something, but the games played will still drop. It's the reason we didn't buy this Lakers game. Like, we were gonna go no matter the cost. Like, we were gonna go. Like, this was the game we're gonna go to. But it's on the back-to-back with Lakers. LeBron James is not playing that game. We're not playing a LeBron James tax to not watch LeBron James. So it sucks. If LeBron James is playing in your town and he's not playing on a back-to-back, like the schedule isn't a back-to-back, I highly recommend you go watch it because this is probably it. He probably has 2 more years, and then he's going to announce his farewell tour like Kobe. And farewell tour tickets are going to be unattainable. So go watch him when you can, man. It's the time is coming.
Yeah, just try to buy a game that is maybe the second game in 7 days or something, not on a back-to-back, not in the middle of a 4 and 7. Now, like, this is a situation that makes me love the Westbrook trade, because if LeBron's injured, like, having Westbrook on your team he's a guy who can take over. Like, when they're all 3 on the court, I don't like the trade at all. I hate the fit, but like, Westbrook's a guy who can help you keep your head above water while LeBron's out. at
But is
least.
that what you should be worrying about? Like
No,
moving ahead
I'm
above
not saying that's
Kawhi?
why they. I'm not saying that's why they did it. If that's why they did it, it's a terrible. That's a
Yeah,
terrible reason to make a trade. But I guess what I'm saying is like they're not gonna flounder as much as they would if they didn't have Westbrook on the team because he's someone who
I
will average a triple double when he has the ball in his hands all the time.
I still doubt. I still think it's a horrible trade. I just think Westbrook. Like I understand his positives and stuff, but people are comparing him to Kuzma, Montrezl Harrell, and
Yeah, yeah. KCP.
KCP. But those
Yeah.
are the guys you can't compare him to. The guys you should be comparing to is Buddy Hield and DeMar DeRozan, because that was a package the Lakers were going to get,
Mm,
not those three. So compare them to those two guys. And if you have DeMar and Anthony Davis, that team's not going to flounder in the regular season. And then if you have Hield, LeBron, Anthony Davis, and DeMar that team's going to play good together. So you have a team that's not going to flounder and play good together. Like
yeah. No,
this
no.
is
I'm by no
LeBron's
means.
mistake.
I'm
Yeah,
by no means defending the trade. It seems like they did it just for the name power
yeah.
as opposed to like
LeBron made the
the
mistake.
actual. Yeah,
Yeah,
GM LeBron made a mistake. I'm not putting this on Rob Pelinka.
yeah.
But yeah, it sucks. Interestingly, they lost to OKC. They blew a 20-point lead or 19-point lead to
Crazy.
OKC. The first game without LeBron. Our guy SGA from Hamilton went crazy, hit a half court three to help seal that game. But yeah,
Yeah.
if the Lakers start losing, without LeBron, the Westbrook hate is going to get dialed up to 11. Like for all those haters out there are going to be they're going to be coming.
Like Westbrook's a Hall of Famer. He's a top 75 all greatest player of all time, all that stuff, right? At the end of the day, this is just gonna elevate him. I mean, like drop him. Like he's never gonna be in top 10 point guard lists and stuff like that. Westbrook's gonna get a lot of love when he retires, and it's like 5 years removed.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
if he
like no
doesn't
one
get
no
it,
one appreciated this guy who averaged triple double for 3 straight
yeah.
years, right? But yeah.
But if there's this huge blemish that, yeah, this guy with LeBron James and Anthony Davis couldn't get a out of the second round, that's
Yeah,
gonna be huge.
that's not a good
That's
look.
so this is make or break on his legacy. Because if he was still on the Wizards and they were just losing and he was like putting up crazy stats, nothing would happen. But if you
Yeah.
can't win with LeBron, like it's gonna be a huge blemish on your legacy for the rest of your life. So
Yeah.
it's huge.
Now, can he be I'm just throwing this out there. I'm not even suggesting this. Can he be traded this year?
Uh, he probably can, but let's be honest, there's no trade package for Russell Westbrook.
Right, because how many years does he have on his contract? Like
It's
2?
not even
It's
that.
not even that bad, right? Like
Like who
you
who
never
would
know.
want to trade
We
that
always
much
say this
pieces?
guy could never get traded. We're like Chris Paul could never get traded. Westbrook could never get traded, and they do. They get traded,
Yeah.
right? Like I
The
don't know.
potential one that John Wall's be linked to, who has like literally the same contract, is the Celtics.
Hmm.
So maybe the Celtics throw what the Celtics are gonna throw Al Horford, Juancho Hernan-Gomez, and like Romeo Langford for John Wall. Like those three are good and they're good for rebuilding teams, but those
Yeah.
three aren't gonna make the Lakers better. So it just sucks. DeMar DeRozan wanted to come. He was literally wanted to come. He was willing to take a huge pay cut,
Mm-hmm.
and they said you needed to play for a minimum. That's what they
Yeah.
told him. They're like, you want
Now,
to come on this team, you need to play for a minimum.
now he's averaging 30, winning with the Bulls, making his bag, and
Yeah,
they're regretting it.
yeah,
Okay, so a couple last things to touch on before we get out of here. The Miami Heat and our guy Kyle Lowry, we talked about him a little bit earlier, are doing awesome. They're doing just as
yeah,
well as we said they would. My pick for 6 man of the year is looking pretty good right now with Tyler Hero.
yeah.
And the Warriors, who we talked about being deep last time, are still looking deep. And Steph hasn't been the number one MVP guy. He's still been awesome,
No,
but like he hasn't
yeah.
been the number one MVP guy that I thought he would be so far. That's going to come, and they're going to get Clay, and all the rookies and second year players haven't really done anything for them. So Warriors are looking awesome. Heat are looking awesome, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing to point out for the Heat is Kyle Lowry keeps messing up that ankle,
Hmm.
but he's only questionable. Hope thankfully. I think the last time he went out was because Duncan Robinson kind of fell on it awkwardly, and you just seen him like limp out. Hopefully it's all good, man. Hopefully these kind of seem like freak injuries rather than like age,
yeah,
because they don't like Duncan Robinson falling on your foot. Like doesn't matter if you're 20 or you're 35, right? Like
right,
it's
yeah,
gonna hurt no matter what.
yeah.
right? So hopefully it's not age-related thing and they're all good. Bam Adebayo hasn't been like amazing, and they're still playing amazing. So that's good. That's good to see.
Butler's been
I say
amazing.
that, but Bam's averaging 19.7 and 13 rebounds. So maybe he has been amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess, man, they're just a team. Everyone's playing amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's they're a team, and the Warriors are a team with a bunch of guys who like maybe you look at this team on paper before the season, you're like Steph, and like who else can I rely? Draymond, who else can I rely on? But Poole's been awesome. Bjelica has been awesome. Looney's been doing his thing. You know, like they're just they look like a real team, and it just shows like when you get buy-in, when you get a superstar like Steph who's willing to take the back seat, take a step back when he wants to, and kind of facilitate more and just still affect the game at an MVP level, but maybe not with the ball in his hands. It just shows like with good coaching how much you can really do.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. Like these veterans are really proving their worth to both systems.
Yeah. Honestly, man, like I don't know what else to say about the Warriors. Like, let's just hope like Clay's coming back. It's probably realistically going to be January. I don't know if he's going to make that Christmas.
He really wants Christmas though.
He really wants Christmas. We see him in the Larry Bird Halloween costume. Like, he looks pretty good. But we see Ben Simmons at 3-pointers in Instagram videos, right? So I'm not going to believe anything from Instagram. But even if they get a Clay who can, like, I'm not even going to say he's Klay Thompson, but even if he just shoots 40% from three, if he's Danny Green,
that shoots 40%,
and he's not, and he's just a warm body on defense. Like if he's passable defensively, and like we know his IQ is there. Like this team could go anywhere.
Yeah, there's just some stuff that's not going to go right. Like yes, it is a 2-year injury. Is anyone betting on not being able to read the offense? Yeah, so like everyone's going to be betting on that. Is anyone betting on Klay Thompson not being like at least an average defender, not a plus defender, average?
Yeah, average.
So yeah, he's going to be an average defender. That can
basically Danny 40%. Green right now.
Like Danny Green can't even shoot 40%. So
maybe not.
He's like, look, he's a 40% shooter that knows the offense and knows the role. That's average on defense. That's like an all-star. It's just not a superstar.
Yeah. Like Klay Thompson on one leg with being 2 years older than the last time we saw him, or 2.5 years older than the last time we saw him. That's still a more talented player than Bjelica, in my opinion. Like I don't want that's no insult to Bjelica, but I think that's still a better player than him. So like just saying, it's going to be another. Yeah, it's going to be an improvement for sure. And then we already talked about the trades they can make. But honestly, that's pretty much it from around the league. Unless I don't know, is there anything like the Celtics have not looked good?
We're watching them too later in November.
Yeah. Other than that, I guess we didn't talk about Cade Cunningham's debut so far. 3 games in, he has not been shooting the ball too well, but
he had 18 and 10 game. 10 rebounds.
I'm not concerned about it. We know how tricky it was an ankle sprain, right? Yeah, we know how long it can take you to come back from that. So I'm not worried about that whatsoever. And but other than that, the rookie class has been unbelievable. Mobley and Barnes have been unreal. Green has had a couple of big games, and he's going to come around. But really. And Franz Wagner, no one is really talking about him, and he's been really, really
amazing.
Good too. Yeah, amazing.
I should have picked him up in fantasy.
Yeah. You actually. I picked him up because you told me to pick him up.
Yeah.
So that was pretty clutch. Yeah. Anyway, I think that pretty much covers it for this week in the NBA. Thank you everyone for listening to this episode of the podcast. We'll be back next week. Sorry that we missed last week, but we will be back next week to talk more basketball. Until then,
and the game we've been to.
And the game that we've been to. Hopefully a win for the Raptors. Hopefully a big game for Siakam. Hopefully the chemistry with Barnes and Siakam and OG and Birch and Precious and all those guys, and Trent looks amazing, just as good and amazing as it can be in Banton. Anyway, in the meantime, check us out on all our platforms: Instagram at Stretch the Floor Podcast, YouTube STF Clip. Subscribe there, and subscribe to the podcast feed, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get them. Leave a 5-star rating and review because it all really helps. Thank you again, and we'll see you next week.